The people of Dodge City would later swear they witnessed sin that summer afternoon. They would tell the story with certainty, nodding as if the truth had been obvious from the start. They would claim they saw it the moment it arrived, stepping down from the train under the Kansas sun. But none of them truly knew what they were looking at. None of them knew how easily a lie could be born, or how eagerly a town could help it grow. The ugliest rumor Dodge City ever carried did not begin with a stranger. It began with blood and silence. It began with a brother who waited and another who watched. The truth started when the locomotive hissed to a stop and dust rolled across the platform like a curtain being drawn. Elsie Hart stepped down from the train holding a single suitcase. She was only 22 years old. Too young to understand how quickly a town could decide who she was. Her dress was pale and thin, meant for summer back east, already marked with travel dust. Her hands were tight around the handle of her suitcase, the only thing she owned that still felt certain. Inside it was everything she had brought with her, a few clothes, a folded letter, and the belief that starting over meant safety. Elsie Hart was a mail-order bride. Sent west by ink and paper. Promised to a man she had never touched, never argued with, never truly known. She did not yet understand how easily a promise could turn into a trap. Caleb Mercer waited near the edge of the platform. He was 49 years old, broad-shouldered, worn down by cattle, wind, and years of quiet responsibility. His hair was streaked with gray, his face lined but steady. When he saw her, he removed his hat. Not dramatically. Not hungrily. He didn't smile much, and he didn't stare. He simply nodded, as if honoring a promise that mattered. Then there was Wade. Wade Mercer leaned against a post near the saloon, boots crossed, confidence easy and loud. He was younger than Caleb, smoother, quicker with words, and restless in a way the prairie never forgave. He smiled like a man who expected the world to make room for him. The moment Elsie stepped down, Wade's gaze locked onto her. It was not curiosity. It was not interest. It was possession. That was the first moment everything began to turn wrong. Caleb introduced himself quietly and offered his hand. Elsie took it, relieved by his calm, grateful for the steadiness in his voice. She did not see the way Wade shifted closer, already smiling as if something had gone exactly as planned. Wade spoke too fast and too friendly. He offered to carry her bag, joked about ranch life, leaned close enough that his voice dropped when he spoke. He asked if she was sure she had come for the right brother. He said it like a tease, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. Elsie felt something tighten between her shoulders, a sense of being watched and weighed. She didn't know Dodge City yet, but Dodge City already knew her. By sundown, the town was whispering. A young bride. An older groom. A woman alone in a place that devoured weakness. Caleb saw the looks and said nothing. Wade saw them and remembered every one. As they left the station, Wade walked just behind Elsie. Close enough to guide, close enough to crowd, close enough to imagine that she might belong to him instead. That night, as the sun burned red over the Kansas grass, Wade made a quiet decision. If the town could be turned against his brother, he would turn it. If the girl could be shamed, she could be broken. And if she broke, she would have nowhere left to stand except with him. Elsie believed she was stepping into a marriage. She did not know she was stepping into a war between brothers. In Dodge City, the quiet wars were the ones that ended badly. The first week at the Mercer Ranch felt calm on the surface, but something underneath it was wrong. Summer pressed down hard. Cicadas buzzed endlessly, like gossip that never slept. Elsie learned the rhythms of ranch life, carrying water, watching cattle, filling long afternoons with work so her thoughts wouldn't wander. Caleb kept his word. He gave her space. He spoke only when it mattered. He treated her like a woman, not an obligation. Wade watched everything. Every morning he found a reason to be nearby. Fixing a fence that didn't need fixing. offering advice no one asked for. Smiling a little too long when Caleb wasn't looking. Elsie began to feel as if she couldn't move without being noticed. Wade's eyes followed her constantly, not friendly or curious, but measuring. Caleb noticed too. He said nothing. Out here, men waited until they had proof. The accident happened on a brutal afternoon when the heat pressed down and the horses grew restless. Elsie wanted to learn to ride properly, not like a guest but like someone who belonged. Caleb agreed and walked beside her near the windmill. A sudden noise spooked the horse. It jerked, and Elsie slipped. She hit the ground hard, pain shooting through her leg. Caleb was beside her instantly, calm and steady. He lifted the edge of her skirt just enough to check the swelling already blooming dark beneath her skin. A laugh drifted from the road. Elsie froze and grabbed his wrist. She whispered for him to stop. Someone might see. Caleb hesitated only long enough to tell her that a leg injury wasn't something to gamble with. He finished checking and helped her stand. They never saw the rider slow beyond the fence. But the rider saw everything and carried it straight back to town. By nightfall, the story had already changed. A man swore he saw something improper. A woman whispered about decency. By morning, Dodge City was buzzing. Wade moved through the town like a concerned savior. He spoke softly about reputation and protection. Then he found Elsie alone and told her people were cruel when they didn't understand. He said he could help her. His hand hovered too close. Elsie felt the trap tightening. Wade wasn't offering safety. He was offering control. By the next morning, Dodge City had decided who Elsie was. No one asked her. No one waited for the truth. Caleb noticed the change immediately. Conversation stopped when he entered a room. He believed lies burned out faster when fed no oxygen. Wade believed the opposite. He leaned into the whispers. Told people he worried for the girl. Said Caleb didn't understand how towns worked. Then he went back to Elsie and spoke carefully, patiently, about protection. About husbands. About being saved. He wasn't rushing. He was waiting for her to feel cornered. That afternoon, Caleb found her sitting on the porch steps. She didn't cry or accuse. She only asked if she had done something wrong. Caleb sat beside her and told her no. She believed him. That was something Wade never understood. As evening came, Wade made his move. A short ride. A quiet conversation. A way out before things got worse. Caleb heard too late, piecing it together with a sick certainty. This was no longer gossip. This was control. Night fell thick over Dodge City. Elsie stood near the livery yard, uneasy about how ready everything felt. Wade stepped close and asked if she trusted him. Before she could answer, his hand closed around her arm. Firm. Certain. That was when Caleb's voice cut through the dark and told him to let her go. The yard went still. Wade turned, surprise flashing before hardening into anger. He mocked Caleb, called him slow. Caleb stepped forward and said it ended now. Wade laughed and shoved Elsie aside, and Caleb hit him once, clean and heavy. The truth spilled fast after that. The wagon. The timing. The grip on her arm. Witnesses stepped forward. When Elsie spoke, her voice didn't shake. She said she hadn't agreed to anything. Wade's smile finally broke. The sheriff arrived and didn't ask who started it. In Dodge City, trouble always had a smell, and that night it smelled like Wade. Morning came softer than anyone expected. Whispers thinned. Quiet witnesses spoke. By noon, the story had changed, not into something kind, but something honest. Caleb stood beside Elsie. She didn't beg. She didn't apologize. She stayed standing. As they walked back toward the ranch, Elsie asked if it would always be this hard. Caleb told her some days would be harder and some better, but no one got to decide who she was except her. That stayed with her. And maybe it stayed with the town too. Because the story was never about scandal. It was about how easily people judge and how hard it is to stand still when everyone is pointing. And when the whispers start, the only thing that matters is where you choose to stand.